I don't know about you guys, but a lot of my friends on Instagram have been going crazy about this new coffee, and it's called the Dalgona coffee. Now, since time is not exactly a luxury at the moment, and we seem to have it in abundance while we are locked down in our respective homes, I decided to give it a shot. And it wasn't bad. I mean, it was a bit dark for my taste. But having said that, I think my review or opinion about coffee is to be completely ignored and not relevant at all, because I'm not really a coffee person as such. But anyway, in the spirit of being honest to about myself and staying true to what this channel is all about, my name is Varun Murli from the Red Music Box, and welcome back to another video episode. I promise you, we're not going to talk about coffee today. Our topic for today is live drums versus virtual drums. In my previous video, I spoke extensively about Logic's drummer track, and I got a few good responses. Some of them were pleasantly surprised, while the others have already been using it and they seem to have good things to say about it too. But that kind of begs the question. I know virtual instruments have come a long way, and does that mean it can replace a live drummer completely? Are live drummers supposed to pack their stuff and say goodbye and go on a permanent vacation? I don't think so, not at all. In fact, if I have the choice to have a live drummer in my studio and record him or her, I would prefer that any day to a virtual instrument. And here's my 3 reasons why I would do so. Reason number 1, beauty in imperfection. Now, live drummers bring a certain flavor into your songs, and they have this certain human element which brings a certain ebb and flow and makes every performance exciting and not mechanical in nature. Now, if you observe closely, take a snare drum for example. You'll never see the drummer hitting a snare at the same spot, with the same intensity, and approaching it from the same angle. There is always a difference. And a kick drum, for example, again. You'll see some drummers let the beater stick into the batter head, creating a very snap-like sound, and the others will let the beater rebound back, creating a boom-like sound. Now, in reality, most drummers end up doing a bit of both, and quite unintentionally so. Hi-hats, as an example. Now, there are different degrees of leaving a hats open or close, and most drummers have their own way of approaching that. Now, somehow, with virtual instruments, you can't exactly recreate these things the same way. And to top it, while a drummer is performing in a studio, he or she makes momentary decisions about playing a fill a certain way, approaching a groove a certain way, and virtual instruments cannot exactly do this by themselves. The closest one can get is route your virtual instruments through a V-kit and have a drummer play on that. Now, even then, in my opinion, I feel the way a sample responds is really different compared to how a drum wooden shell with heads respond to a human being playing on it. Now, we have a small example to look at. I have exported a portion of a drum recording that I did at the studio. Let's give this a listen. Now, you see, there are these small nuances in the playing which makes this performance sound pleasing and easy to listen to. Now, I've tried to recreate this performance using a MIDI drum track. Now, in this case, I'm using a Native Instruments studio drummer. No, I'm not a drummer and I don't have a V-kit in my studio. So I am using the keyboard, the Native Instruments MIDI controller, and I'm programming these drum parts using that. So let's give this a listen. Now, you see, it just doesn't sound as good as the live performance because it lacks all those nuances. Especially if you take a closer look at the hi-hats and right cymbal, it's a complete giveaway. Now, if you zoom in here, I've actually replicated what the hi-hat is playing and I've tried to align it exactly at the same spot. But despite that, it doesn't sound anywhere close to what an actual hi-hat sounded like. So now what do I do if I don't have the option of recording live drums and I don't have a V kit? And the only option I have is to program drums using my MIDI keyboard. Now this is how I find a workaround. So I try to rearrange some of the parts so that it masks the limitation of a virtual drum kit. Now this is how it sounds. Let's give this a listen. Now that sounds a lot better than the previous MIDI programming that we saw in the other studio drummer track. So I hope this gives you an idea as to how you can go about if you're programming drums in your DAW. Reason number 2, music, in my opinion, was never made to be perfect. Have you ever pondered or asked yourself, why do we always go back to the old classic albums? Now we have an ocean wave like new music coming in each year, and there's so many artists across the globe, but still we prefer the old music. Now, coming from a music education background and having taught at quite a few music schools in the local scene, I have increasingly seen a change in behavior with young musicians that they somehow like to go back to these classic rock albums or blues records or sometimes even jazz and pop. Somehow they like the older stuff more than the newer stuff. And the often said thing is the newer stuff sounds more sterile and the older ones had a certain feel and liveliness to it. I wonder, where does that trend come from? What about the old music or these classic albums makes people be more attracted towards it? If you ask me, my opinion is music was always meant to be an expression of our soul. It was meant to reflect the vulnerable and the creative space that we put ourselves into, and our thoughts and our opinions and our feelings were meant to flow out through the medium of music. Now, a computer can't exactly do it the same way a human being can. As humans, we are built to express our emotions and also respond to emotions of another human being. Now, a computer or a virtual instrument on its own can't exactly do the same thing the very same way. The best bands or songs never had performances perfectly in tune or perfectly in time. In fact, it was the little nuances which made it sound so human and live and nice. Every track was not corrected to death, almost sucking the life out of these performances. Tracks had that little breathing room to express itself and just be itself while representing what the musicians were feeling and that at that very moment in that room they recorded in. In fact, the best take in a studio is not the one that is performed perfectly, but it's the one which conveys the emotion in the best manner. Reason number 3 is joy of making music in the same room with others. There is a certain energy that is undeniable. When multiple people get into a same room to create music, something happens and either it turns into an amazing great experience or it doesn't. And you just cannot force it even if you put $1,000,000 on the table. It's the heart behind it, sharing that vulnerable and creative space with other human beings in the same room. Like I said, responding to emotions, responding to the other people and what they are bringing into the music in that room is what creates it. And somehow virtual instruments can't exactly do that. At best, virtual instruments are a reflection of one's own experimentation and thoughts without an opinion. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that virtual instruments are bad. As I shared in my previous video, I got through many projects using virtual instruments and it worked out just fine. But all I'm saying is, if there is a choice between a virtual track and a live musician playing in the studio, I would any day choose a live musician playing in a studio, unless the situation is so demanding, either we don't have the right amount of equipment or a good musician or a good room in which we could record these live instruments. In such scenarios, virtual instruments can be our best friend and a way to rescue ourselves out of such situations, but not otherwise. Also, VSTs can sometimes create this learning experience for yourself, especially if you're stuck in a room without a band. I sometimes use a virtual drum track to create new kinds of strumming patterns that I would have otherwise not thought of. Sometimes all I need to do is open a MIDI drum performance and move things around a little bit, rearrange the way the drum groove works or functions, and immediately I have a new strumming pattern to complement that. So, what are your thoughts about this? I'd love to hear from you, so please leave your comments below. And if you like this video, do not forget to click on the subscribe button and ding the bell so you're notified whenever there's new content available on this channel. And also, invite your friends over to this channel as well. I'd love to create a community sort of a thing where we can all share and learn from each other. For more details about the studio, please visit the website theredmusicbox.com. See you soon in another video. My name is Varun from the Red Music Box, and do not forget to create, play and record.